today's show, we have a special guest. Her name is Keshnie Mathi, and she reached out to me a while ago already. She's super passionate about what she does, and today was just the perfect timing to let her come in, because we are going to be talking about everything mental health related. Well, it still is October. Yes, time flies, but it's the end of October. But October was Mental Health Awareness Month. And wow, how important has that awareness shown to be? I think we all are faced with some sort of mental health issues, whether it is that you needed to be extra aware to prevent yourself from mental health issues, or if you've encountered yourself facing with some serious problems, or you know someone that has struggles with mental health. It's all about breaking the stigma, talking about it, and preventing it, but then also finding adequate help and support and counsel when it's needed. So I am very excited to invite our guest. She's a passionate entrepreneur, also have started off quite a few initiatives that she's going to talk to us about. But more than that, she's a wife and a mother to two Earth children, but also a heaven baby. So she totally understands what it is to deal with loss and mental health. So she embodies what she does. She's just the real deal. I'm not going to talk more about it. Keshnie, are you here? Welcome.
Yes, I am. Thank you so much for having me.
You are so welcome, and thank you for making time and reaching out to us and to be talking to our audience. You've got lots to share. First of all, just tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you are all about.
Well, like you said, I'm a mom. You know, I'm a mom and a woman just trying to do what I need to do in order to just have a happy life. I'm married. I have an amazing husband, and I've got two babies, like you said, that live here earthside, and I have had a loss with my son Aaron, who died 7 years ago. So it has been a challenge. I am a counselor, but you know, when life happens, everything that you know and everything that you've learned flies out the window. And so I'm a big advocate of just acknowledging that we are human first, and that mental health is not the exception. It's actually more common than we think, and that prevention is so much better than cure. And that even though we might not necessarily always know exactly what to do when life hits, it's just about leaning in, you know, about being curious and about noticing when things go wrong. And that has really been my journey. I'm still on a journey. You know, I think I'll always be evolving. I'm by no means perfect, and I get lots of things wrong, especially in the realm of just self-care and looking after myself. But the more I talk about it and the more I engage with women, and especially women that are in medical spaces and working there, or are new moms, or who are trying to fall pregnant or already pregnant, we start to see such common trends that emerge with families and with women as a whole, and how we deal. So it's about raising communication. I'm all about collaborating. I'm all about communicating. And I'm about just having a voice to say that it is okay. You are normal in whatever stage of your life that you're in.
I love that. Thank you for sharing all of that. It's beautiful, and so true. We are all learning, and we're on a beautiful journey together. But definitely some people just have a certain gifting in certain areas, and I can just see already that you are just a natural counselor. I think I would love to talk to you. And that is what you do, right? You like to empower and to counsel and to guide in and around mental health, but also self-care and wellness. That's the full package, and they also tie in with each other. So, but let's focus a bit on the Mental Health Awareness Month aspect, which is more important than ever. I mean, I think we've all faced some sort of trauma in this season we've been through and that we are in. How have you experienced it in the work you are doing?
So you're absolutely right. COVID brought on a new way of dealing and a new way of being. People that felt that they were okay, found themselves in situations where they were not. And anyone that had a little bit of unwellness, I like to call it, within them, it did definitely magnify. So how did we see it? We saw it a lot in people that felt very alone, even though they were surrounded by people, in individuals who felt guilty for not being sick or not being as sick as everybody else. We saw it a lot in families that were struggling to connect. And this is one of the biggest things. Like when you struggle with connection, people don't realize that you need touch, at least 20 touches a day to feel connected with somebody else. And so that's what has been missing, a lot of the connection, because we couldn't hug, we couldn't hold, we couldn't kiss, and that was all restricted for us. And so that has manifested then in certain behaviors, normally isolating oneself or overcompensating for it by reaching out and being a little bit more needy to others. But it also has created just a little silo. People have gone into silos. And they just don't think that they can or that they should be able to talk about what's troubling them because there's so many people that are out there dying. So, 1 in 3 South Africans, and, I'm going to throw in a stat there because the 2 of us in a room, if you add 1 more person in, 1 in the 3 of us, are actually struggling with some sort of mental uncertainty or mental unwellness. And it's staggering to think that 25% of our children in South Africa are dealing with the same. So it's almost like it's embedded in our culture now to have something that is needed to be spoken about but doesn't really happen. Because number 1, we're very polite as a culture. Number 2, we don't want to really worry other people. And number 3, like you rightfully said at the beginning, there is an unnatural stigma attached to just not feeling okay. The other thing is, in the world of social media, especially with COVID-19, everybody went out and started to self-diagnose themselves. That's all that they could do. They could go on Google, and so they would type in something, and then they would come to me and say, I'm definitely narcissistic, definitely. And I would say, don't label yourself. Like, why are you labeling yourself? Let's look outside of that. Let's look at your emotions. And then they would say, do I need to talk about my mother? And I said, no, let's talk about now. Let's talk about what you're dealing with now, And then they would say things like, I screamed at my child today and I'm a terrible mother and I should never be screaming at her. And it's about normalizing that and going, okay, it is completely normal for you to have reacted in that way and for you to feel this way within the context of what was happening. What would you like to change about that? So still, you can still be angry. That's okay. Mothers are angry with their children all the time. What about the behavior do you want to change? And woman was saying, I need to just get out. And so I would be saying things like, walk the dog, go gardening, get out in the sun. You want to have your cup of coffee, take your cup of coffee and just stand outside of your gate. Forget about walking if you've got a 4-year-old inside. Just stand outside of the gate of your house. Schedule your moans and your groans. So schedule your crying in the shower. Even though little ones are looking in, get in your shower, and 7 o'clock in the morning, you are allowed to be as angry and frustrated, as you want to be in those moments. But just about having those conversations to normalize the emotions is what we found was so needed, especially in this time.
Wow, so I loved everything you said. So, but there's basically in this time almost like a magnifying glass on mental health issues. Yes. And it's actually really been a great exercise for awareness in that regard, because mental health is an important thing that we actually could work on daily, right? It's something that we need to learn. Yes. Just as keeping your immune system healthy, you need to keep your mind healthy and the way you think and your think patterns so we now. I like it that we're naturally talking a bit about the preventative realm of going into really serious mental health issues. So, and the other thing that you said, that's quite remarkable and important to realize that children also suffer with mental health. And maybe that's how can we help them. So first of all, let's unpack how can we help ourselves on a daily basis to be healthy in our mental state, and then reflecting that to children.
Yeah. So these are great questions. I mean, our children mirror us. They normally learn what they live. So we know that, and we also have to honestly just say to them that we're human beings and we're going to have emotions that go like this. And, we're just trying to do the best that we can do minute to minute. But for personal routine, it's important to just have a routine firstly. So I don't know if you know about the 3 Bs. It's like bath, book, bed. We use it for our children, right? Bath, book, bed. But to have a certain routine in the evening is important because we all try to control something. And with COVID, for example, we couldn't control it. So that loss of control meant that we felt within us a sense of dread, okay, a sense of anticipation of the worst. So try to control something that you have control over. That's the first thing. The second thing is learn how to relax. So if I ask people how many sips is in a glass of water, would you be able to tell me, right? How many sips in a bottle of water? So when you're carrying this around as you're walking on your day, how many sips are in a bottle of that? You're not going to be able to tell me. And that is because we've lost the ability to actually focus in the moments. So when you're sitting there drinking your water, sipping your tea, having your coffee, take a sip and just sit in that sip. Just sit in that moment. Say one. Okay. Walk as you meditate. So when I went to India, I've had an amazing journey and an amazing opportunity to travel. And when I went to India and I went to Assam and spoke to one of the monks, and he was saying to me, meditation doesn't involve you sitting down and going, and you should know better. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, meditation is washing the dishes and counting how many times you wash your plate. It's about listening to your breath as you walk. It's about counting the steps from your room to your door. So we have to train ourselves to relax. And for a lot of women, mothers, midwives, birth workers, they don't have the time to do that. So how do you relax in your car, right? So the way that I do it is I say, look at the 5 senses. What do you enjoy to taste? What do you enjoy to smell? What do you enjoy to touch? And have those items in a car. So if you like essential oils, we can't just go and put that on ourselves when we're about to go see a client. But what I like to do is I like to take, those Stay Soft packets, the refills, okay? The ones that we use to pour into our clothing. So if you buy one of those that's a vanilla or a lavender smell and leave that in your car, when you step into your car, you automatically transported into that scent that brings you relaxation, right? So that's important. Then reconnecting is extremely important. So reconnecting means taking those 20 touches a day. And that means, sitting next to your loved one instead of sitting across from them. It means maintaining eye contact. So actually looking at someone in the eye when you're speaking to them. And often we don't do this. We do fleeting moments. So we'll say, hi, how are you? And then we'll turn around and not fully be present in the answer. So that's important. Finding opportunities to be able to touch by brushing hair, giving yourself your own touches. So instead of slathering lotion on, layer it onto your skin. And as you're doing so, how many times does it take for you to do that? Just again, relaxing, finding yourself in the moment, being one with yourself is very, very important. And reconnecting is very important. And then the last one is recognizing that no matter what you do in terms of trying to prevent instability, preventing the emotions from coming on, that you are a being that is emotional. You are a human. So finding safety and finding peace in the things that bring you safety and peace. So not to indulge in those things, but to allow yourself to have pockets of joy. So when we are talking about the day and talking about everything that has gone wrong, what has been your pocket of joy? And if you didn't find one, how can you make it happen? So when women are giving birth and, on the other end of the spectrum, when people are dying, we try to bring in joy factors. So creating some sort of goosebump moment, it gives you the happy hormones. So you want to do the same thing daily. You want to watch videos of babies giggling or puppies falling on their faces. You want to force the joy in until we can create the habit of joy making and a gratitude attitude, And in those moments that you do feel down, allow it. Allow it to flow. Relish in it and sit in that moment and in that energy, because that's okay too. You are allowed to feel sad and anxious and you don't want to go out and you feel overwhelmed. It's okay. And then find that pocket of joy immediately afterwards.
Awesome. So that was very much practical, lots of practical tips. Thank you so much. And that really helps us to all, we can all apply some of that or most of it. So Keshnie, I was just wondering then, because yes, we are all emotional beings, and it's very important to realize that and to allow our emotions and to give it space in a healthy way. When would you say do you move from a place where you're going to need some extra help, when you realize like, hey, but my emotions are out of whack, or my anxiety is not a normal healthy anxiety anymore, or I am too low, I can't get into joy? How can we identify when we say, hey, maybe this is a time to go get some counsel, get some therapy? What would you say?
I would say from the very moment that you realize that something is not okay. Like I'm not an advocate of saying leave it for the last minute until you absolutely need to, and you have to go through the referral chain. I love what we call multidisciplinary teams. So if you feel comfortable and you have a doctor, you have a midwife, you have a counselor that you trust, to just say to them, I'm not feeling myself, I'm okay for the moment, but should things get a little bit more, what should I do? So if the feelings are consistent and if they are not getting better after a week or 2 weeks, then you need to consult someone. If you are coming in and out of the emotions, so you're having good days and bad days, and your good days and bad days are still better than the bad days before, you're on the right path. But if you're going and dipping into areas where you feel that you could be a danger to yourself or others, or if you're feeling like it is hindering you from living a normal life, so you don't want to shower anymore, you've stopped eating, you can't get out of bed, you can't change, you can't even wake up to give your kids food, or even to feed yourself or dress yourself. So if it hinders your natural ability to be, contact someone. But here's the kicker. There are many people out there that are high functioning people that are still extremely, extremely mentally fatigued. And so emotionally, it's not just what you can do, it's how you feel. So if you feel emotionally and if you feel psychologically like you are outside of who you are, or you're outside of the person that you should be, then you need to consult someone. There's different people that you can consult. Multidisciplinary teams mean that you can see your midwife at the same time that you're seeing a counselor, at the same time that you're seeing a postpartum doula, at the same time that you are consulting with your spiritual healer. So you don't need to swap one for the other. We all come in at different stages and phases of your life. So it's okay to just reach out, just put up a hand and say, I'm not sure what I need. You don't need to define it. And then somebody would be able to guide you through that process. But as soon as I notice something is wrong, it's probably better than there's nothing else we can do now. We have no other options.
Yes, that's great, and I completely witness with the fact that it's a multidisciplinary team approach, and that it's totally okay. And even your best friend can fit in that cycle. Sometimes they are the ones that you then going to reach out to, and they might point you in the right direction. So I think the biggest threat is for us to keep walking in isolation, So
Yes.
that is never a good thing. That is where depression and darkness hides and breeds and flourish. So just on that note, Keshnie, let's talk a little bit about postnatal depression, because that is a very real thing and obviously fits in with the audience that's listening in here. Because we know that there's a lot of change becoming a mother. There's a lot of hormonal change. There's those early baby blues at day 3, 4, 5, which is quite normal. But postnatal depression, or actually postnatal depletion, is also a word that gets used. That's a real thing. How can we be on the lookout for that, and how can we approach that? What is your experience?
So my experience is an interesting one, and I'm going to give you my view on why these things happen and why every woman will experience some sort of grief after a baby, even a healthy, happy pregnancy and baby. So, as we're going through life, we have our moments where we are this woman and we're excited and we're having a baby, and then the baby comes and we lose the essence of who we were. So that person who we were before baby is gone. We are basically grieving the loss of that person as we evolve into someone new. So in addition to our happiness and our excitement, we're also carrying with us grief notes. Okay. And this is why we can go into that between 3 and 5 days, that moment of feeling like, oh my goodness, I can't do it. Or sitting on the floor and not having showered for 2 days, because you're so tired and you're nursing your baby. That is all extremely normal, and that's because we carry the grief notes with us. Now, some of us are not able to detach from those grief notes and integrate it into the newness of what is motherhood. And because we don't know what motherhood is, and because we cannot define what motherhood is for us anyway, we then walk into it quite blindly. And we have no control over what is to come. And so again, it's another loss of control that we try to control, and we then try to control ourselves and our walk in it, which causes a lot of stress, which causes a lot of expectation. So some of us are not able to integrate that grief loss, and then we move into a period where we do actually slump, where we feel hopeless and helpless, and we feel that we absolutely cannot, and we know that it's hormonal. And we know that for the women that are experiencing postpartum depletion and postpartum depression, there is nothing wrong with you. There is something wrong with everything, the ecosystem in which you find yourself in. And for those women, it's their normal state of being. And so then we find with the helplessness and the hopelessness comes then a need for us to push ourselves to do better. Why can't I do this? Everyone else is doing this. Why can't I love my baby? Why won't my baby stop? I do love my baby, but I'm scared that someone will hurt my baby. And it goes into that almost chronic state of anxiety and sadness and stress and depletion. And that is where, and the signs that we see then is similar to the signs that we see when we're talking about mental health and how do I need help and when do I need help. That mom will say, I need someone to help me. I don't want to do this. I can't do this. I need help. Or she will isolate herself, right, from the situation, or she will act out in ways that is not her, that she, is outside of who she is, that is uncharacteristic of her behavior. And those messages are quite loud if she allows those to come out. It can also result in internal grief and internal sadness and internal hurt if she does hide it and tries to move through it very quickly, because that is that pressure of us to be happy that the baby is here. It's normal for you to feel this way. Just get over it. You'll do fine. We've all done it. But for that mother, it's not. It's not fine. It hasn't been done. It's overwhelmed, So it's very prevalent. I mean, again, 1 in 3 women, 48% of women will go through a little bit more than baby blues, and 1 in 3 women will struggle last into the babies, a decade after the baby is actually born, and it will impact her and her experience of the pregnancy. So it's important for us to start having the conversations with women even before they fall pregnant. Normally we try to sort of silo women and keep them safe when they're pregnant, and families, and we say everything's going to be fine. We don't usually talk about what happens if it's not. And so women are less likely to come forward when they don't exhibit the euphoria and the happiness and the okayness that comes after baby's born. And they will hide that for fear of judgment, self-judgment even, or just because they feel that they'll get over it eventually. So we need to have these conversations way before the birth actually happens.
Yeah, I'm so big advocate on that. It's just education and creating the right expectations, because it's so easy to just have the movie view online and out there of motherhood and cute babies. But hey, the reality is so different. So that's a very good way of getting yourself in the right headspace and helping to prevent you to go down that rabbit trail. So thank you for unpacking that a little bit. And for women that are listening and midwives and birth workers, just to always be aware that postnatal depression and depletion happens a lot. So first of all, be aware of it, and then also don't let it go too far. So get help on time, and start talking about it, or just identifying it, and see if if you need more professional help. Worst case, you're going to need some medicine for a little while to get you through it. There are lots of natural ways you can also lean onto. I'm quite a fan of those. Maybe you have got some up your sleeve. I'm sure you do as well.
Yeah, for me, I'm all about let's just try to connect and to get outside. Like if we spend so much of our time indoors, and it's like we have cabin fever. When I worked on a cruise ship, it's like that kind of feeling after you've had a baby. So step outside, get some fresh air. Make sure that, within allergies, that you're eating the right food, that you're eating the proper nutrients. Utilize your essential oils as much as possible. Again, these are all things that you need to discuss with people and chat to people. But if you're taking care of yourself and you're nurturing yourself from within, it makes a big, big difference. But natural ways, it's the same thing as combating natural pain or chronic pain. It's just to make sure that you are identifying first what part of you is hurting, what part of you needs nurturing, to sit within the spiritualness of you. I find that vitamin D in the sun cures all. It makes you feel better to get out into nature and to sit there in the wind, even if it's at night, to have your coffee out there. So for me, those are the things that I advise people to do. Surprisingly, water is very healing. And we've had lots of moms that have said, just standing in a pool or just sitting in a bath, unless they've had a traumatic birth experience from, a bath, a water birth. Those kinds of things really help as well. And then self-regulation, fidget toys has been a big savior. So if you get a balloon and you fill it with water, or if you just buy a normal fidget toy that all the kids are playing with now, those little circle ones, and you just focus on that and allow the energy to go into that as you make sense of the assistance that you need, that goes a long way too. Support groups, huge advocate. Go out there and find a group. We have free groups that where moms can meet, and I'm sure you guys do too, where you just meet and just chat. They're not therapeutic groups, but they just groups where others say, I'm going through the same thing. I feel you. You're not alone in this. Especially when moms have discovered that their child has some sort of special needs, the 100 days after, or even beyond those 100 days. Moms that have had miscarriages or stillbirths, we have support groups for you and programs for you to take you through your postpartum journey. But groups of moms getting together, there is such power in that. And that circle of sisterhood is just amazing. Healing can happen there too.
Absolutely wonderful. So thanks, Keshnie, for unpacking and also touching a little bit on loss. I want to just touch on that lastly. Our time is running fast. I can talk with you forever. Because it's a special niche that you also work in, and that is dealing with loss. It is a trauma, and whether you had a miscarriage, a stillborn. I mean, even in COVID, we've dealt with loss, and you work in that sphere as well. You can just share what you do or how people can find you, or whatever. This is your platform if you want to just go into that area a little bit.
Oh, thank you. So I always say, even though it's going to sound like I work in the death space, I don't. I work in the life space. I'm like optimizing, because the stories that I hear from people that are dying or going through the death process, either self or others, teaches us how to optimize our lives, right? So I do work predominantly. So I train death doulas in South Africa, the wellness specialists. We train internationally accredited death doulas, and these are people that sit with the terminally ill, and assist them and their families as they're going through their diagnosis and then into death. And just like postpartum, where there's a period of 6 weeks, we take the family through that bereavement, a period of 6 weeks. And you'll be amazed at how birth and death mirror each other in terms of what it does to the body. I am a birth doula, but I specifically work with moms that are going through perinatal loss, so stillbirth and miscarriage. My son Aaron was stillborn, so this is very personal and close to my heart in terms of advocating that those mothers need postpartum care too, and those mothers also need support and love and nourishment. And I use Ayurvedic and holistic methods in which to do that was passed on from my grannies to me, on how to make sure that, you know, all women are cared for, but in particular the women that don't have the babies to hold on to. Also women that are going through, and families that are going through losses, or babies that are in ICU and NICU. We work with those moms as well. So it is in the grief and loss space predominantly. We support quite a lot of organizations, and we train victim support teams as trauma debriefers, in order to also assist the public to normalize grief and loss. And end of life doesn't always mean death. It sometimes means end of your life as you know it. So this is after divorce, after loss of a child, also after happy children and after happy marriage. There's end of your life as you know it. And so integrating those loss and grief statements, and being able to create anew, is something that we walk alongside with these families.
That's so beautiful. I love how you put it. What I was thinking, there's so much that you've said that is important, but our time is running. Our time is running. So, but I think what is key is that that those mothers, those people need support, and out there we always tend to get a bit scared when people has gone through something so hectic, right? And we're not sure how to help them, how to come closer, and those people might even just be even more isolated because of that. So I'm so glad that you're training people on how to guide people through those times of loss. And a few lastly, just give us a few tips for every person, every Joe out there, for people that's been through loss. To be there for them. If you haven't been through it yourself, it might be a bit scary, you know?
Absolutely. So firstly, you know, we're not contagious, right? So I promise you, like standing next to me, and I've had a stillbirth, you're not going to have one. You're not going to bring it on you. You're not going to wish it on you. Say their name. So I host celebrations for mom that name their babies that had, you know, that they have lost through miscarriage and stillbirth. I say Aaron's name with pride. We celebrate each of his birthdays. On the 14th of October this year, he turned 7. My kid celebrates with him. So bereaved mothers and families like their children's names to be heard. So you can say, what is your loved one's name? Ask them questions relevant to their grief, you know. So instead of saying, call me if you need me. Say to them, can I come over and just drop off a cake for you guys to enjoy? Can I come over and take your kids maybe to the park for you? Can I come over and just sit and just be in your space? That's all that they need, you know. Some of the most devastating moments is not immediately after the loss, but it's a week or two afterwards when the phone stops ringing. But also just remember, 1 in 4 pregnancies, not 1 in 4 women, but 1 in 4 pregnancies do result in differences to what we are used to, okay? Not always loss, but it results in a different kind of experience. So in those moments, we have to understand that normalizing that mom is extremely important. And also just being there. You're never going to know the right thing to say, but say something and be present with your presence, you know? We're always going to get it wrong. And so if you notice that face going like this, then just say, I'm really sorry if I said something to offend you. You know, what could I have said in that moment? Women are told not to tell anyone that they're pregnant for the first 16 weeks of pregnancy, right? We get told that. So therefore, it's very difficult for us to say that we've had a loss in those 16 weeks of pregnancy.
If you had
so
a
there
miscarriage.
Are a lot of Yeah, so there are a lot of women out there that have had these before 16-week losses, 4 weeks, 8 weeks, and then they say to me, oh, but you had a stillbirth, your loss is so much greater. No, it's not. It's not. A baby's a baby's a baby. And some of those women, like with IVF, for example, they've lost lots of babies, and they ask, am I still a mother? If you felt that baby within you and you were pregnant, you are a mom, you're just mothering in a different dimension, you know? So it's part of that journey of just, if it makes us feel uncomfortable, we do what we need to do to just make sure that we hear her without the fear of saying the wrong thing. So just be there, just be human. You'll do fine.
That's beautiful. We're not contagious. I love that.
We're not.
Be human. Sure. Okay, Keshnie, lastly, just tell us where people can find you or make use of your services, of those that you've trained, if they feel like they want to get in touch with you.
Absolutely. So you can find me, find the whole team actually on the website. So it's www.wellnessspecialist.co.za. So there's 3 S's in the middle. Or you can email us at connect@wellnessspecialist.co.za. We have a pro bono or a non-profit, which is called Enduring Loss Supportive Alliance. So if you want to host a support group, be part of a support group completely for free, you can go on there, and that is www.endoflifesa.com. And then you can just give me a call. Am I allowed to give out my work number on this platform? I'm not sure. But if you want, you are welcome to maybe reach out, and we can give you the number that you can WhatsApp, because I always feel that with matters of the heart, it's so much better to connect with people. And so we do try to connect to every inquiry that comes to us, whether you utilize our services or not, whether you want to be a practitioner or if you're a client. It's about spreading education and getting the words out there to encourage communication around these things. So the Wellness Specialist, we're also on all social media platforms. Just reach out, slide into our DMs, and we'll contact you back.
Awesome. We will put those links also in our show notes and in the comments so that people can find you. This is such a wonderful work that you're doing, Keshnie, and I'm so glad that we got to spend this time together. I wish you all the best of everything you do, and yeah, that you will keep your bundle of joy flowing as you're dealing with so many people. So yeah, I wish you all the best of everything you do.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure being here and lovely meeting you. Thank you again.
Wonderful. Okay, so that was us for today. I am sure you have learned something and enjoyed that. I'm wishing you a beautiful day, and remember, look after yourself, that mental space. And we will see you next time for the new show. Lots of love.